Okay, so you said you were the.
So I was the captain of captains as such. But every new face we went to, we'd have a ballot. Who was voted as the captain. Not only was he like the ganger of the coalface, the main man that went around. Whenever you had holes, falls of ground, I'd be the lead hand in there. But also I would deal with management, right? Some of the management of British coal were bastards, right? Throwbacks right back to the bloody 1800s. So that's why we had a union, the National Union of Mine Workers, which I was chairman of the union here. I also was executive member of the South Wales area of the coalfields. And I was acting president for about 4 years. So I've got a wealth of experience of trade unions. So basically, that's where I come from. I'm a trade unionist. Basically, that's what I really am. Right? That's what's on my heart. NUM, National Union of Mine Workers, tattooed on my heart. So that's where I am, where I am, because my community and the miners formed me to be what I am today. But if I'm any good to anybody, that's what I am. They made me. Nobody else in my family, obviously, my mother and father. So there's a background going back generations of my family being in mining and fighting the unjust, the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
Thatcher and them bastards, right? Excuse my language.
No, that's fine.
That's how strong I feel about that, right? So I've worked here all my life. At the moment, I'm a director of Tower Colliery. In 1994, the colliery closed. The Thatcher government closed nearly loads of collieries. Every industry in this area was smashed. High in unemployment. If you think it was now nearly 50% in my area where Gary works now, even today it's still 45%. So we bought the colliery ourselves when they closed it. After they closed it, we created a cooperative where we come to work every day as employees. But 4 times or 5 times a year we have shareholders meetings where all the bosses who are shareholders as well and the directors are held accountable to the shareholders, and we was allowed to ask any questions and so forth. Quite very volatile on occasions, because miners are like that, when Welsh miners are. So we worked the coal faces here, and we mined the coal in Tower Colliery for roughly around nearly 13 years, very successfully. We made profits, not every year, but we made profits, and people had good employment here. We brought in a sickness and accident scheme. If any miner had an injury, he would go on the sick and get his full wages from day one. That was never been known in the world as far as I know, especially miners, coalface miners. The management had it, and the middle management, but the miners themselves, actually mining the coal, never had that. So that was a massive step for us, and it was one of the proudest days, because I was chairman of the union when we took it to the board of directors and came there with that. We had a pension scheme put in place. Loads of things was put in place through that period that benefited the workforce. We bought everything as much as we possibly could, whatever equipment, foods, whatever it was, we bought local. That was our policy. Obviously, the big cutting machines, which cost about £1.5 million each, was a Joy cutting machine from America, but they were based in Britain. That's the only thing we bought outside the locality, other than the heavy equipment in the coalface. But everything else, the steel, the wood, the eggs for the canteen, whatever it was, we bought local. So we were very successful on that. But unfortunately, in 2008, we had exhausted all the coal you could actually mine in the longwall system. So we had to close the colliery. About 18 months prior to that, we went to the new Welsh Assembly. Jane Davison was the minister in charge of training and so forth. And in Britain, or especially in Wales, we had a system that once you've been notified that you're going to be, by letter, you're going to be made redundant, it's only then you could have put in for training. React training, which is about £2,000 or £3,000 worth of retraining. What we done 18 months prior to that with her, and mainly I was the leader of that, we turned it upside down, and we had that funding and training 18 months before we knew the colliery was closing. Right? So Jane Davison is a bit of a hero of my eyes, because she stepped out. She didn't abide by all the rules, she bent them slightly so we could benefit. So we had loads of people here. We had that React training to become plumbers, whatever it was. So when the colliery came to be closed, loads of these people had other skills which they could take with them outside. We had 93–94% had jobs straight away, either in other collieries. There's 2 small drift mines down in Gleath Valley, or they had these training and went out and set up their own business as plumbers or whatever. So it was a big success. I only had 18 men without jobs, and we found over the next year or two, we found them jobs in various organisations. Even we coached. We coached.
I just learned that word the other day.
That's right. We coached a couple of them here. We kept about 4 or 5, 6, 7 of them here because we couldn't find jobs for them because of their age and so forth. So we had everybody we found a position or whatever it was, right? So they weren't chucked on the door, their employment, and just left to rot, right? Because the last 5 years of my working life here, I've been a director and a personnel manager of the colliery, and I take personnel manager different from whatever personnel manager you've ever met in your life, human resource, call it what you will. I didn't believe in all that. It's the person comes first, not the company. I know it sounds daft, but sometimes it goes against you. But I've sacked 5 people, 5 people, and that was for theft of their own workmates and things like that. I would accept that, right? But the model we set up here, I think there's a lesson to be learned by it. I only wish that a book could be written about it. I am with the for it.
Sorry, Mr. Rudlin.
Yeah.
Gentleman has just wanted to see you from the Echo. Can you I took into him.
2 secs.
Right?
2 secs.